The most vulnerable thing that you can ever do is trust yourself. All right. Hello. I am back and we are digging in. So this week is all about vulnerability. And I'm really excited to share today's guest with you. Her name is Vonne Jacobs. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about Vonne, and then I'm going to tell you a little bit about why I have Vonne on today's show. So Vonne is the founder and CEO of Creating Equity. It's a global strategic advisory and consulting firm that helps individuals and organizations design and implement simple, practical solutions to complex problems. She's an equity advocate and clarity coach. Vonne uses transformational principles to help Black women professionals, and particularly attorneys, get clear about who they are so they can get what they want, all while creating an equitable world that works for everyone else. Or works for everyone, not everyone else. Works for everyone. Okay, so I met Vonne a year ago. And we were in a similar group experience together. And I fell in love with her humor. I always fall in love with people who have very dry, witty humor. And the funny thing about humor, because I think that's a coping strategy, a lot of comedians talk about how they developed using humor as a coping strategy around trauma and how, deflecting trauma and just finding, making things be funny. And I grew up the exact same way, feeling extremely insecure about certain things at school. So instead of getting made fun of by people, I made people laugh. And when you make people laugh and you can bring people joy by deflecting your own pain, pushing your own pain away, I feel like when I meet these types of people, it's not only hilarious, but I'm like, I see you. I know what you're doing because I am you. So I fell in love with Vonne the first second I met her because, we laughed about ridiculous things. And I always get a good giggle out of people who can make fun of themselves pretty much. So Vonne has a beautiful story, and I've watched this woman blossom over the last year, and the way that she tells her story is truly about getting to her rock bottom and using her rage to transform her emotional state and where she is today. And she talks openly about almost killing somebody. And I think maybe not all of us, but some of us have gotten to our breaking points at times where we have had thoughts in our mind around harming ourselves or harming others. And, obviously you're under tremendous stress when that happens. And it's like, why do we need to get to a point where we're just hoping and praying that the world falls apart or that we can catch a break? We need to learn to give ourselves our own break. So I want you to dig into Vonne's conversation, and I want you to send me a message on Instagram at Heather Chauvin. Share this podcast and tag me at Heather Chauvin. And you can also tag Vonne at Vonne Jacobs. So it's VONNE Jacobs. So at Vonne Jacobs on Instagram. This is all about vulnerability. This week too, I'm also going to be sharing, probably around Wednesday, I'm going to be sharing more vulnerability and behind the scenes around my book and putting that out into the world. And I'm going to be sharing more of what's inside of the book as you ladies, continue to pre-order, and I really, really appreciate that. And you can check that out at dyingtobeagoodmother.com. This is it. We want to be ourselves. We got to trust ourselves. And to trust ourselves, that is some vulnerable shit. So let's dive into vulnerability. right, Miss Vonne, welcome.
Hi, how are you?
I've been trying to have this conversation with you for almost a year.
Yeah, it's like, I can't believe it's already been a year, but yeah, a whole year.
I know. And what a beautiful day. What day are we recording on?
Oh my gosh. So it is Inauguration Day in the United States of America, January 20th, 2021. I just watched Kamala Harris be sworn in as the first Black woman, Asian American, Indian American, all of the firsts vice president. I watched Joe Biden be sworn in as president and give the most amazing speech. And I am feeling very much faith restored in humanity moment right now.
All the feels.
All the feels, all the feels. Proud and relieved and excited and hopeful and overwhelmed. All of it. But actually loving every minute of it right now.
Good. Well, I said I feel honored that, you know, we're having this conversation. You're like, I'm in a good mood today. So this is a great time to have this conversation. But in reality, it's probably been, it's been an emotional roller coaster. And I don't know, are you familiar with the emotional guidance scale?
No.
Have you heard of it? So I don't know who made it up. I think maybe Abraham Hicks or something. I don't know. It's in the woo-woo-ness, but it's real, and I use it in my practice. But down here, you know, on low level energy emotion is fear and despair, and then high is hopefulness. And you know, you have to be in the top 6 to bring in anything that you want and desire in your life. And it's interesting how you can see change happening, but you can also go all over the emotional guidance scale. And then when you're in this energy of hope and possibility, you're like, yeah, like someone can punch me in the face today. And I'm just like, I see you, it's going to be okay. And then there's just other days where you're like, I can't do this. And every time you and I have had conversations, like you have such a journey and such a story to tell. And I wanted to give you the microphone today and tell that story because I think there's so much resilience in you. And I just believe that the more we tell stories, the more others can know that they're not alone in the world and learn from each other. And that's truly how we're going to change the world. It's not by, we're not even going to go there, but we're going to, we're going to do it differently. So I asked you before I hit record, you know, what jazzes you and what's your purpose and what do you want to talk about? And you told me, so now you got to say it again.
I got to say it again. I mean, okay, I told you like what I said to you was this, as like my purpose for being in the world, at least as I understand it in this moment in time, is to create equity. And it's really about every day, everything I do is about finding ways to make it possible for people to exercise power and agency and showing up in their full authentic self and creating the success that they want in their lives. And, you know, we started talking about this and I was telling you that a lot of that is internal work. It's about getting people to the place where they even believe that is possible, that they are aware of and standing in and willing to exercise their power and agency as creators, as people who can generate realities and possibilities for themselves. And I had to do a whole lot of my own work to even come to understand that that was a thing. And so now, because that gift has been given to me, I want to give that gift to other people. And I want them to be able to experience that. And I also want to work with institutions and organizations so that when those people come to that understanding, that there is a place for them to actually put that work into practice. So awesome. That's what I do. I create equity all day, every day.
So and I'm just stripping this back for basics, explain equity.
Okay.
And agency.
All right. So for me, there is this continuum of this conversation. And it's about access to and ability to take advantage of opportunity. So on what I would call the lower end of the continuum, and this is my own assessment, is the concept of equality, which is where everybody gets the same thing. And equality sounds good and sounds like something that would be good for people, but equality assumes that everyone is in the same place and that they have the same needs. And so if we just give everybody the same thing, then they'll be able to generate the same result. Well, it's assuming that they want the same result. It's assuming that they're in the same place. And so for me, that's not the win. Equity is where I'm working, because for me, equity is about meeting people where they are, giving them the supports that they need, the tools that they need so that they can generate the result that they want. And so it's more attuned. I've always been a custom kind of bespoke kind of person. So for me, equity is a bespoke approach to providing opportunity. Now, my end all be all pursuit is justice. Justice is the thing that says there are no barriers to people getting what they need in the first place. So equity doesn't even have to be a concept because we have justice. But justice is a much longer term goal. And so what I do right here and now is I go around and create equity with people in their personal lives and their professional lives, with institutions and organizations, because I believe if we meet people where they are and give them the supports that they need so they can create the results that they want, then I get to see the world that looks like the one that's the big, Coke commercial, everyone's holding hands and loving and all of that, the woo-woo stuff I've learned from you in the last year.
I'm just visualizing everyone in a Coke commercial holding hands being like, my guts are sore because this shit.
Yeah, Coke's probably not the best products for that, but it was like, it's
the marketing.
They are great marketers. So we got to give them that. They are great marketers.
Let's come together.
Exactly. Everyone holding hands and just loving and vibing. And this is a beautiful thing. And
you're like, this has nothing to do with pop. This is
Exactly.
And what is agency for those
so
curious?
For me, agency is this real, again, it's this internal knowing that you have power by the fact that you can exercise choice. And so agency for me is really you're exercising your power of choice. And choosing is not always an active kind of endeavor. My goal is to make it active and to let fewer and fewer things be passive choices. But it is to really hold on to that idea and that understanding and that knowing that in every circumstance, in every situation, even when they're unfair, even when they seem to come out of nowhere, I have choice. And if I exercise that choice, I can then stand in agency. So it's about coming. I'm not suggesting it's easy. It's not.
It's uncomfortable. It's emotionally uncomfortable.
It's emotionally uncomfortable. It can be daunting. It can be overwhelming. But for me, if I remember that and I hold on to that true understanding of that, then I can come at circumstances from a very powerful place as opposed to a place of victim, as opposed to a place of things are being done to me. And that just feels better.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
stepping out of that drama triangle.
Yeah, exactly.
So you haven't always been the Vonne you are today.
No, I have not.
And you have quite the story to tell. So I was like, I want you to tell it. No holding back.
All right. So Vonne has always been a good girl. I am the oldest child, the oldest grandchild. I come from a small town in South Carolina. And I was always a good girl, good student, smart girl, did what she was told, did what everybody expected of her, and just kind of rode that train. And went to college, went to law school, entire community supported me. Some people helped pay for books, helped pay for, gas, all of that stuff. So felt like I owed them a certain way of living because they had supported me and because it's what you're supposed to do as a good girl. You're supposed to go to college, you're supposed to get married, you're supposed to have babies, you're supposed to do all that stuff. What I never really took the time to understand about myself is that I didn't really want a lot of those things. But because I never spent any time concerning myself or even asking myself about what I wanted, I built a life that was based on what other people told me I should do and should want and what their definitions of success were. So I got the big firm job and I made good money and I, climbed the corporate ladder. Meantime, I am dying inside. I am married to someone when I should not have been married to anyone because I was not prepared to be somebody's wife. I was working a job where I was working 90 hours a week, no sleep. I'm living off of 8-shot venti white chocolate mochas. Yeah, it was not a good time for me. Like
that's intense.
And multiple times a day, like not just one, like multiple times, 8-shot venti white chocolate mocha. Just so I could stay awake and do my job, right? Like I was so burnt out, but so detached from my own experience that all I was doing was self-medicating with these things. Well, eventually my body said, I'm not doing this anymore. And I got sick. So I had this tachycardic episode. And on my wrist, which you may be able to see, is this lovely EKG from the day that I died.
So it's a tattoo for the people who can't see it and they're just listening to it.
I can't tell if you can, but it's a tattoo of my actual EKG from the day where my heart rate went up to 190 and it was racing and they literally had to stop my heart. So I'm in Nashville, Tennessee at the time, practicing, get taken to Vanderbilt by some friends who have more sense than I did at the time and said I should get checked out. And they have to stop my heart because either that or it's going to explode. And my colleague, who had never met my mother before, had to call her and tell her, hey, you don't know me, but I'm with your daughter and we're at Vanderbilt Medical Center and they say they have to stop her heart, but they think they can start it again. This is the conversation and I just remember being, like it was very much like the movie scene where you see yourself, like you're floating over yourself and you see yourself.
That's called an outer body experience.
Where you literally see yourself. And I saw myself splayed out with this beautiful young nurse sitting right here next to me trying to put an IV in my arm. But that, and I'm like, how the hell did I get here? And I didn't even at that moment understand, but how I got there was by living a life that was for everyone else and never taking the time to ask myself, is this what you want? Do these things matter to you? Is it worth not ever seeing your family? Is it worth always being exhausted? Is it worth it to you to be grinding this way to put money in someone else's pocket? Yeah, there's some perks that come along with it, but are those enough? Never took the time to ask those questions. So that is what I would call my first stop sign to the face moment.
How long ago was that? What year?
That was 2009. That was April 30th, 2009.
Okay.
So I had that, and turns out that I had lupus. I was diagnosed with lupus after that episode. So, autoimmune disorders, a stress-induced, stress-exacerbated autoimmune disorder. When I'm working a job that is tremendously stressful and living a life that is tremendously stressful, those things cannot continue to go together. At that time, I was working at a firm and their understanding of what I owed them and my understanding of what I felt I owed them parted ways because I thought I owed it to myself to try to heal my body. And they thought that I still owed them 90 hours a week. And so we had to part ways. And I got a different job thinking, well, I just need a new job, right? I need a less stressful job. Never taking the time to ask myself any of those questions, never really looking at my life, just, again, putting Band-Aid on top of Band-Aid on top of Band-Aid. So I get another job. I continue to work those same kinds of ways because I'm never addressing the issues, do it again and again, get 2 more jobs, same thing. And then at the last job that I had officially was working in a very, what I would consider toxic work environment, where I was working for someone who I did not realize I was working for because no one told me I was working for. I thought I was working with her. She thought I was working for her. we had some conflict around that. I felt alone and unsupported. I went to my superiors asking for support around that. And they were like, yeah, she treats everyone like that. Sorry, too bad for you. So again, everyone acknowledges the bad behavior. Everyone sees it. Everyone's like, yeah, that's horrible for you, but we're not going to do anything about it. And me being the good girl who follows the rules could not comprehend, well, I'm doing all the stuff I'm supposed to do. I'm following the rules that you guys say are the rules. Why am I not getting the support? Why am I not winning? Right. And instead of, again, assessing for myself what that really meant for me, I'm trying to make the situation fit. And it's not fitting. And I'm getting angrier and angrier. And I'm feeling the health effects again, because I'm under a lot of stress, which is making my autoimmune disorder flare up. And I'm in pain and I'm tired and I'm all of the things, but I'm still trying to make this situation work, And my moment, my second stop sign to the face moment was I was coming back from a meeting and I was getting ready to turn into the parking lot. And the person who was causing me this distress was walking across the street. And I drive a Jeep Grand Cherokee Limited 4-wheel drive.
I know where this story is going.
2-ton vehicle. And she's just walking across the street. And I had this thought where I was like, I could run her over right now. The jail is right across the street. I could just go tear myself in right after. No muss, no fuss. I could call Jay. He could get the dog. The house has been cleaned by the maid. So when they have to go into the house, it's not going to be a mess. Everything's been made. I can tell mom where the bank book is. Krista has already had to call her and tell her I'm dying. Krista can tell her I'm about to go to jail. Say, no biggie. I had a whole playlist in my head within 10 seconds, justifying being okay with running this woman over, committing murder.
Yeah.
And thank God I got snapped out of that, because I really, my foot was coming off the brake. I was going to run this heifer over, and it was going to be the best day of my life. And I was like, you can't stay here. That was the moment when I realized if I was ready to commit murder, and to the point that I was so okay with it that I was making the to-do list, the logical, logistical to-do list around what happens next, this was not a place I could say that I was broken. I really in that moment owned that I was broken. And
now, would you say that is that a moment of agency?
That was a moment of agency for me, only in that I realized, because I had the power to say, I don't want to be broken.
Yeah.
And I need to figure out how not to be broken. My agency was in saying, I have a choice in being broken or not. And I didn't recognize it as that at the time. I was just so desperate to not be hurting.
Yeah.
So desperate to not be the kind of person who would be okay with murdering a woman.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very low bar, but it's the kind. I really did not want to be the girl who was okay with killing a person who was a mother and a wife and a sister. And, even if she'd been horrible to me, I was just way too okay with her life ending, and way too okay with ending my own, life that I had built by falling into that I was just like, I can't, I'm broken and I need to get not broken.
So I want to talk about what happens after that. And there's so much that you were saying in there where I was like, oh my gosh, I want to know more. I want to know more. Yeah. But it's interesting to me. I always tell people, these things that are not working in your life, those, what did you call it? The stop sign to the face.
Yeah.
Those are symptoms, right?
Yes.
They're red flags. And for whatever reason, and I know there's biology into that. There's cultural things. There's the beliefs, there's so much tied up into it, but we we accept a lot of that. Like, oh, 90 hours a week, that's normal in this industry. Oh, you're supposed to drink this much caffeine. Oh, like you're supposed to feel like shit. Like we've accepted that. Oh, like if you only like the weight that you carry and how you manipulate yourself and how you're just like, you don't know until you crack. That's my point. You don't know until you crack.
Exactly. Because it is these things where, I remember like hearing things like, well, that's why they call it work. It's not supposed to be fun. It's not supposed to be something that you enjoy like that. Like you're not supposed to have, all of this happiness and pleasure and that's not how life is supposed to be. Life is supposed to be hard. Like, I talked to a friend of mine about this a lot. We talking like the glorification of suffering, right? It's like you get your street cred, your respect comes from the amount of suffering that you are able to endure. Instead of questioning the idea that suffering is a part of the human condition, we are just, like you said, just accepting of these circumstances, and we contort ourselves under these ideas and the weight of them. And there were way more flags that came up before me almost dying and me almost killing someone, but I was ignoring every one of them. The fact that I had to sit on my bed for 20 minutes and convince myself to get dressed to go to work every day was a sign that I completely ignored as just being a part of being an adult.
But you should just be grateful you have a job. And you're an educated, intelligent woman.
Do you know how many Black women would die to be where you are? Do you know what it took for you to even be able to have this opportunity? How dare you be ungrateful? How dare you say that this isn't what you want? Do you know how many people have died? I mean, like, those are the conversations that were going on in my head and still go on in my head about saying, but I don't want this. But I don't want this.
We need to talk about that because I mean, we all have different versions of that story. Yeah. And I'm obviously clearly a white woman who's like, do you know how many blah, 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 blah. Like we all have that version. And I've had to dig really deep to be like, one, shut the fuck up, Heather. Two, yeah. And when you have more, you get to give more.
Yeah.
And you pass the baton and you give the microphone and you move over and you create more space and you just donate the shit out of, the overflow of time, money, energy. But it takes a lot of like courage to do that internally. So and even though you said, yes, I'm still there. And yeah, I still get those thoughts when it's just a thought, right? It's just a story. Yeah. So how do you get yourself out of that now when it comes up, knowing that, you are removed from that version of you?
So what I had to learn how to do was, number one, I had to understand that thoughts are just that. They are thoughts, and that I am in control of what happens next. So when those thoughts come up, I, number one, tie myself back to, why am I here? What is my purpose? My purpose is to create equity. Does following the trail of this thought help me do that? No. Okay, then. That's one of the ways I sort of separate myself from that thought driving my actions, right? So I've had this conversation with a couple of people where we talk about thoughts, creating feelings, driving us to behaviors, which then give us results, right? So when these thoughts happen, and even the feelings that come with them, because sometimes I don't catch it early enough, it's a matter of me getting centered again on, who am I? What do I care about? What am I about in this world? Are those thoughts and feelings helping me do any of the things that I really want to do? If they're not, then I get to tell myself, I see you. You're not working for me right now. Go over there. But this
is a daily practice.
It is a constant, like moment to moment practice of, stepping back and stepping away from, because it feels like it's very real, right? And in one way it is, but it's also very manufactured by us. And so I try to remind myself that I'm the one who's manufacturing these thoughts, which means I'm the one that can throw them away. And I'm the one that can say, no, you're not working for me. But it is a constant practice. I am always engaged in activities and things that remind me that I have the power to do that. So I read a lot. I have coaches. I am always scrolling through somebody's something that reminds me of the power that I have to say yes or to say no. Mm-hmm. And then I really work on exercising that power.
So let's talk about this, because it's like, we know what we need to do, right? Like, you're in the moment, and I'm human, you're human. So there's cycles where you can get out of it quickly and you're like, I'm in the practice. And then there's deep lows where like, I have those moments. I actually had one last week, and I was supposed to do something and it was like, I don't want to, and I'm not going to. And then you're going to all of your practices and you're trying to get out of it. And then if you have, coaches or support people in your life, and they are like, come on, you got this, like trying to kick your ass. And then your coping strategies come out, and it can look like, I always say, it's like a dog that has been abused at a shelter. It's like, don't fucking come near me. Right. Yeah. Like there's that back and forth. And I know you need definitely an assertive coach that's like, Vonne, let's go. Come on. Because here's this, we're always protecting something. Like I always say, human behavior is a language. And I don't know about you, but I'm curious your perspective on this. So your purpose. Does it scare the shit out of you?
Yes, absolutely.
Yes, me too. And do you find the closer you get to it, like opportunity to express your purpose, those, you can call it sabotage, but like the thoughts get really loud and they get very like real. Like you're like, this feels real, but there's a part of me that's like, knows it's not real, but it feels so real right now. So I'm curious your experience with that moving through this process.
Yeah. So I am a big self-sabotage person, particularly when I'm doing this thing that is so very scary and foreign to me in a lot of ways. So like, I'm a lawyer by training. I've been practicing for almost 20 years. I know how to lawyer, right? I'm very comfortable with that. Me, even though I've been an equity advocate my whole life, me standing as a DEI professional, as a coach, as whatever title you want to give it, is a new cloak, a new identity for me. And I've been very uncomfortable with claiming that part of my identity, right? And really having a hard time reconciling that. And so, yes, I have those. And it really is how I deal with it is I make sure that I have those things already around me. So I have the coaches, I have the books, I do the trainings, and then sometimes I just get it wrong. Sometimes I wallow for a week at a time, even with those people, because what I've learned about myself is I have to get sick of myself.
Oh, this is so good. And oh my gosh, let's talk about getting sick of yourself.
Yeah, I have to get sick of not getting dressed every day and wallowing and just looking at the same, circumstance in front of me and not doing anything about it. And I have to get sick of whatever it is I'm wallowing in and say, okay, it's enough of that. And sometimes it takes a day, sometimes it takes a week, sometimes it only takes a few seconds. But it really is about me claiming the thing that I know that I want and saying, I want that more than the satisfaction I am getting right now from wallowing in self-pity. And I do get satisfaction. There is a lot of satisfaction that comes from being right about how hard it is and how unfair it is and how just I can't do this and all of those limits. There's some satisfaction that comes from being right about that. But I want that other thing more.
Yeah.
And when I allow myself to connect with the fact that I want that other thing more, then I start to be able to, okay, it's time to get up and take a shower. It's time to really, make that call, send that email. Even if they say no, at least you tried. It's a lot of that, but I have to get sick of myself. I have to get sick of the disappointment and the pain and the just disgusting feeling of not doing anything.
So here, I really enjoyed this conversation, which is, I'm like, I just think of it, vulnerability. That's, what it is. Yeah. But people can't, unless you're in it, it's very hard to describe to people. They're like, what are you going to do? Like, what is coaching about? What's this process about? How? And I'm like, you just have to go into that, messy middle. And, if you're a perfectionist or a left brain thinker, you're not going to enjoy it. It's going to be very uncomfortable for you. You're going to get angry. You're going to react. You're going to project. Whatever was hiding inside of you that you were trying to hide behind is going to bubble up to the surface. And it's just like a detox. It needs to come up and out. But there was something that you said, and I can now watch people that I'm working with, like if they're sending me a Voxa or even just people in general. And this is why I always say to people, you cannot take other people's pain away. It's actually detrimental to their transformation. And I see this with women in parenting, partnerships, like marriages, even just the weight that women carry. I'm sure you've been in relationships like this, trying to take the discomfort away from other people. And as a coach, and you're probably learning this or have learned this, when I am a recovering rescuer in this industry of wanting to help people, I'm like, oh, let me make your life easier. But really what I need to say is like, you're getting closer to the ledge, but you haven't hit your rock bottom yet. Because people will be like, what's the quick tip or strategy to get out of this? And I'm like, do the fucking work that you hired me to do that you avoid doing. There's no other strategy that's going to get you further away from the discomfort that you need to face and go through in order to create the freedom that you desire. So stop asking, how can I make this easier? When the easy part is you literally have the toolbox over here, but you are refusing to open it because you're like, I need the magic pill. I need the quick fix. And I'm like, you just need to feel.
Yeah. And I am that person. I am that left brain, logical. I want the strategy. I want the system. I want the to-do list. And the work that we did in the last year has all been about me learning to access and leverage my feelings, right? Like what I had to come to appreciate and understand was that my feelings, my heart really are the key to my superpower. They are the thing that I have hidden from most in my life. Because my feelings have been hurt early and often. And so I just didn't want any of that to happen again. And so I just shut them down. But what I've learned is, there is no avoiding the discomfort. There is no avoiding, because it's showing up one way or another. Like that's not going away. Okay, if I have a strategy, then it's just going to blow up in some other area of my life. It's not going to go away. I have to deal with it. And I don't enjoy it. I still don't enjoy it. I don't enjoy even admitting that I have feelings a lot of time. But what I want more is to get to the other side of it, because like you said, the freedom, the joy, the well-being that is on the other side of it is so worth it. And so I'm learning and have learned and continue to learn how to deal with the feelings, how to just get messy with them, how to wrestle with them. And when I work with other women, that is what we do. It is not about, because I have that rescuer tendency. I know how to fix this. Here's my list. Here's what you do. Here, done. But that's not helping them. That's only kicking the can down the road. And if I don't want to see that in Congress, why would I want to see that in people's actual real lives that I care about and that I want, better for? So we get to get messy. And I've come to appreciate the power of that, but it is not fun. And I don't tell people it's fun because it's not going to be, but it's so worth it.
Yeah.
It's so worth it.
And I mean, you can make it fun when you're doing it with like a group of women who are like, yay, let's do the messy, uncomfortable work. And then we're going to force ourselves to have fun and like laugh about it and cry together and be like, we're imperfect humans. But yeah, in the moment, it's not comfortable, but like, I think eventually, and not everybody does this, you get to a point where you're like, I'm done trying to hit the easy button and like, just carry the struggle on my back. And it's interesting because I feel like there's those two different types of people. Like, and I'm sure you could go back and maybe I want to ask you that. Okay, so let me finish my sentence. I'm having 10 conversations in my head. So the first one is, I feel like there's those two different types of people. The one that's like, I'm on this path of vulnerability and alignment and living my purpose and ease and wellness and health. And then there's those people that are like, I'm just driven by ego and I'm just going to push and go, 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 and just blinders on. And I can see it a million miles away. Like you can tell those people, but I'm wondering, like the version of you now, the Vonne now, sitting behind the wheel.
Yeah.
At that stoplight, seeing that woman cross the street, like what, and today, I don't mean like, you know, maybe yesterday or like a month ago, but like the good feeling Juju Vonne today in this moment, like what would she be thinking looking at that woman that is like bullying her?
It is so interesting that you asked me this question because I actually still live in the same city and drive by that office and that parking lot and that woman pretty regularly. And I've noticed that I have a very different reaction to her name and her presence now. Like now I feel sorry for her. Now I worry about her. And because I'm like, how hurt must you be that this is how you're choosing to walk around and live your life? Like I didn't see any of that when I was in the car the last time, but now I look at her, I think about her and I go, I'm sad for you. I want you to find whatever freedom you need to find so that you don't feel like you need to behave this way. I can now see that a lot of that activity is about being afraid of not counting, not like she doesn't matter, that she's not valuable, that I'm afraid of something. Like I can see that now in ways that I could not imagine before. And so now I would just, we're not going to be friends probably. We're probably not going to like go hang out or anything. But when I think about her now, I have a level of compassion and curiosity about her that I never had before.
Mm. What did that woman give you? I don't think you would be, but seriously, would you be the woman you are today without her?
You are so right. I would not have, if it had not been for her, I would not have the life that I have now. And even like saying that is like, I know that, but it's still very like, oh my gosh, all of that just painful time, all of the tears, all of that was a part of my birthing of my new coaching company, the new DEI work that I'm doing, being an entrepreneur, living the life that I want to live, where I get to decide what I'm doing today and not other people telling me, where I get to say yes and no much more proactively than I ever did before I had that experience with her. And so, yeah, she's given me a lot and given me access to things that I didn't realize I had.
Sounds like she saved your life, Vonne.
It is. It's really like that. I mean, it's odd, but yes, it is. Because if I had not had that experience with her, Lord only knows what else it would have taken for me to realize that I needed to have a transformation. But yeah, she did. She really did give me a whole new life.
I love how, you know, when you're healing parts of yourself, you can go back to those old situations and just see through a completely different lens. And in my, human journey, I've just surrendered to the fact that the healing is never done.
Yes.
New level, new devil. There's always new things. So I want to circle back. I'm like, holy crap, the time is flying by, but I want to circle back to this conversation that we're having about vulnerability and feeling your feelings and navigating those waters, how all of this has to do with equity.
Yeah.
And how, yes, we can teach people about like compassion and empathy and like living a new way, but like, how is this this mindset in leadership going to pivot and change equity?
So for me, what I've come to see about and sort of learn about the world and about people is that when people understand their own value, they don't have such a hard time understanding the value of others.
Oh, dang. You need to repeat that.
So yes, when people understand their own value, they don't have that hard time understanding the value of others. Because where I see all of the stuff that comes up in organizations around diversity, equity, and inclusion is because I don't appreciate the value that you bring. I don't see you as someone that is worthy of my time and energy and understanding. And so because I don't see you that way, I'm not concerned about whether or not you're being treated fairly. I'm not concerned about whether or not you will be given the opportunities that you should be given. I'm only concerned about preserving what I think is mine, because I don't understand that it's mine no matter what. So all of the internal work about accessing your vulnerability and coming to understand and value yourself and understanding your agency and your power as a creator is so that you're coming at the world and interacting with others in the world from a place of, abundance, really. It's an abundance mindset. It's about knowing that what I have isn't dictated by what you have. And what you have isn't dictated by there's enough pie for everybody.
Yeah. And when you worry about it. So once people, let's pretend magic wand. Now people are like, okay, I see my value. I'm embodying it. Sometimes people don't understand the ROI of that, right? They're like, I get it. So explain to me the visual of the ripple effect.
Okay, so I'll use my life as an example. So once I really came to understand that I was worth saving, that I did not have to piecemeal myself out to everybody else's desires for me and for the world, and that I am worth saving, then I started to say to myself, okay, Vonne, well, what is it that you actually care about? What is it that you actually want? And then I started to be able to say, okay, well, I don't want to be partner at a big firm because that life doesn't seem like would work for me. Okay, then now I'm no longer concerned about whoever else makes partner, because that's not, I don't feel like I have to cling to that as some external validation, right? I'm not scrambling for all of these scraps because I'm validated internally and I don't need all of these external markers. That begins to show up for me as, okay, then, well, Vonne, what do you want? I want to be my own boss. Okay, well, what does that look like? And what kind of work do you want to do? Well, I want to promote equity. I want to promote equity in healthcare because that's the industry that I know and I understand and I appreciate what it can do. I also want to promote equity in the legal profession. Well, Vonne, what does that look like? And then I start to just have a whole different idea about what the world can be. And that shows up in me just being a happier person. Like my friends who have known me these last 20 years will tell you that the bitter, angry Vonne before I did my transformational training, right? I went to the first thing and I was hoodie Vonne. That is what my teammates called me. I came in with a hoodie, hood up, sat there like this.
I would have been terrified of you.
Everyone was terrified of me. And I was very good at scaring people and I really enjoyed it. Right. I enjoyed being able to intimidate.
Yeah, that's your Halloween costume.
It was like, because I was trying to project something that I didn't feel internally, right? It was really an overcompensation. Once I feel it internally, I don't have to be mean. I don't have to be loud. I don't have to be aggressive. I can be, but I don't have to be. And the choice in how I show up and how I engage with folks is present in a way that never was before for me, because I no longer feel like I have to prove myself to anybody.
Yeah. And just by that, your energy, the woo, right?
Yeah,
like
the woo.
Like,
I mean, universal law is real. As much as I wanted to pretend like it's not, it's real. It's real. People haven't been talking about this for millennia for no reason.
It's interesting, though, because we just need to hear it in a language that we understand. Mm-hmm. And I always tell people, if an asshole walks into a room, are you attracted to them or repelled? You want to run away, or you're like, I'm not feeling that. If someone walks into a room and they're open and they're nice and they're inviting, do you want to walk towards them or away? It's like, okay, what energy are you projecting?
Well, we live this every day.
Right.
We even actually apply it every day in our lives. We just don't call it those things and we don't pay attention to it. But like, we all have gut feelings about folks all the time. And we all like, no, I don't think I want to be in the room with them. Or, yeah, I think I want to do this. I don't want to do that. And what I've learned through coaching and training and all that stuff is just how to get more in tune to that, how to pay attention to it better, and then how to leverage that knowledge and that information.
I'm so grateful. Thank you for this conversation. We could talk forever.
We really could. I mean, we could just hang out for months and months on end. I still want to come to Canada.
When we allow Americans in.
I know, whatever. Look, if we ever get allowed look, can you just call Justin and tell him, look, I'll wear my mask. I'll get my shot. I'll do whatever he wants me to do.
We'll let you in. It's happening. We have hope. We have hope.
And we have, that part, that the emotional scale that you gave me was really good thought, because it is like aiming for and hanging on to and claiming that higher level energy. Even as I watched the inauguration and was afraid that some sniper was going to come out of somewhere, I still chose to be hopeful in that moment. And that's how I feel good.
Yeah. And that's vulnerability of like, am I going to choose this thought of hope, or am I going to go down here to fear? And it's okay to have that, like, naked and afraid feeling of like a layer of skin being shed off. It's like, the little crab running from one shell to the next, where you're like, I'm vulnerable. But in that moment, Brene Brown, it said the most vulnerable emotion is joy or feeling.
Yes.
We get so close to it, and that's our desire, right? Freedom, joy, ease. And we get so close and we're like, it's going to be taken away. The shoe's going to drop. And it's like, if we just try, like the pursuit, right, to get there.
Yeah. And the falsehood that somehow pursuing that means that you're not realistic. Like that narrative does not work for me at all. Mm-hmm. Like I can be aware of risk and still choose joy.
Yeah. I love this. This year, I've been on this journey for a minimum a decade, but it's been around 15 years. This year for me, especially with the book coming out, I already feel naked and afraid, but my I guess theme is like trust. But also I'm watching the energies come towards me, like even if it's a DM on Instagram, and I'm just like, do I want this to come closer, or do I want it to go away? And it's not avoidance, but it's just like, how do I want to respond? Right.
But like that right there, right? Like even that is saying, okay, before anything actually came at you, you already chose. You already said, like, this is the energy I want to create around me. This is the life I'm having. This is the year I'm having around this book, around my ideas, around what I'm about. And so I've already chosen. We're not engaging with negativity in ways that don't serve me. We're not, if there are teachable moments, that's different from, arguing people on the internet who don't want to be taught anything. Like, why would I spend my time doing that? That's not helping me. They're not engaging. That part about saying, this is the kind of year I'm having.
Yeah. And it's a moment by moment commitment, right? But even I'm like, what conversations do I want to have? And just little subtle shifts, like, get back in your lane, Heather. Like, you learn, you grow, you expand. And then you're like, what thoughts are mine, and what expectations are who the world wants me to be, or who my industry wants me to be. And I'm like, what do I want this to look like? And you got to listen to yourself.
Yeah. And we got to create stillness and space for that, right? Like the world is so busy. There's so many distractions. There's so much chaos. I think that's part of the reason we're so bad at it. It's because we don't have stillness in our lives as, an ever-present thing. And so stillness I've learned that actually, that I have to, even if it's just when the email comes in, okay. Mm-hmm. Like even that is enough stillness for me to say yes or no.
Yeah.
Engage or not.
Yeah. Or reply 24 hours later.
Or wait. Sometimes it's just wait.
You know what I tell people? So I talk about like the red, green, yellow zone.
Oh,
like
yeah.
You can't solve problems in the red zone. And I just really try to respond to anything in the green zone. Because the only reason why we respond is because we really want to be heard.
Yes.
But it's like, you got to have your safe people. You're like, I just need to be heard right now. And I'm just going to project. I'm angry. I'm sad. I'm frustrated. And then you reply with, thank you very much. I'll get back to you.
Yes. And I have text threads, several of them, as a matter of fact, for that very purpose. Like, look, and we get to create that, and we get to have all the support that we need. This is why it's so important that we really invest in creating those relationships and finding those tools, because they're the things that'll save you, honestly, like save me from jail, save me from death.
Well, I'm so glad you're so far removed. I'll try to keep you out of jail. We'll see.
I appreciate it. Look, I'm all the people who want to help with that. I'm good with that, because I'm way too cute to go to jail. I love comfort. Jail is not comfortable.
I love it.
Know that you don't get there's no wine, like not good wine anyway. In jail, there's no
not
bourbon
good wine.
In jail.
Yeah. So Vonne, oh my God, you're hilarious. What are you up to in 21, and where can people find you?
So I am up to a lot of things. I am developing and actually delivering diversity, equity, and inclusion training through my company, Creating Equity. I'm doing that for organizations and the companies that really want to take on, I consider this like the transformational DEI training. Like, this is if you really want to get down to the nitty gritty and let's really move the needle. That's what I'm doing. But I'm also doing it as a coach. I'm coaching. I have a coaching program called Lessons in Vulnerability. It has a Facebook page. If you just type in Lessons in Vulnerability, like my name, VONNE, Vulnerability, you can join my Facebook group. And there I'm going to be having conversations about what it looks like in your life, particularly for Black professional women, to say, is this what I want? Is this who I am? Even amongst all the noise, how do I create the life that I want for myself? Not just the one that everyone thinks I should have, not the one that's about rescuing everybody. How do I save me? And in saving me, then become a greater contribution to all of those around me. And we get to talk about things like allyship and advocacy and, sometimes it's just a good shoe moment and a good laugh, it's all of those things. But Lessons in Vulnerability on the Facebook page is probably the easiest way to reach me. Okay. You can DM me there. You can post anything if you have questions, but join us over there. We're going to have a good time. We're going to have a good talk, and we're going to really start moving the needle for people personally and professionally, so that the world that we live in gets to be the place that we all imagine it can be. I love it.
Oh my gosh, I have another interview and I just want to keep talking to you, but we'll have all the links. Yeah, we will. You will come back. We'll have all the links for that in the show notes or below this video, wherever you're seeing, or I'll say something on the podcast, the URL or whatever it is. But Vonne, I just really appreciate you, and I got so much from this conversation. So thank you.
Thanks for having me. I had fun. I loved it.